to Retroality TV presents Reimagine That with Chris Mann, offering refreshing reality with a retro twist. This week, part 2 of Chris's interview with Alison Arngrim, and we'll delve into the subject of healing dreams with our very own dream interpreter, Yvonne Riva. And now, introducing your host, Chris Mann.
Thank you again, Linda Kay, our vintage-voiced announcer and producer. And hi, everybody. This is Chris Mann, the host of your Retroality.tv podcast, Reimagine That, where retro pop meets forward thought. Great to have you back. To let you know, I am not the same Chris Mann that is on the NBC series The Voice, even though I have a voice. You don't want to hear me singing, let me tell you that. But it's kind of funny. I have gotten a few Facebook friend requests from people that are clearly trying to find the singer Chris Mann. And it makes me wonder, if this Chris Mann, the opera singer on The Voice, if he gets a lot of people coming up to him and asking him questions about Priscilla Barnes and Three's Company. And is he like, "Leave me alone, why was I cursed with this name?" Somehow I think he's probably doing just fine on his own. And good luck to you, Chris Mann. We are so thrilled to have the second part of our interview with Alison Arngrim, Nasty Nellie on Little House on the Prairie, and best-selling author of the tell-all memoir, Confessions of a Prairie Bitch. Alison is traveling all over the world this spring and summer. She's headed to Switzerland and later to France to do her comedy one-woman show. And then she's back this summer in Wal-nut Grove in several places touring with her comedy act. And she tells all in her interview with us. This time, she gives us some really great dish about Little House on the Prairie here in part 2. Some really funny stuff. And then she talks about her role as an AIDS activist, which was inspired in part by her friendship with the late Steve Tracy, the actor who played her husband on Little House. Speaking of Little House, you probably heard on the news yesterday, today's the 29th of February, but yesterday the new cast of Dancing with the Stars was announced, and at the top of the list, Little House on the Prairie star Melissa Gilbert. Oh yeah, Half-Pint is going to be doing the mambo on TV. So I think we need to watch Dancing with the Stars, put on our bonnets, sit there with a half-pint of ice cream while TV's Half-Pint melts away the pounds. Not that she has any pounds to melt away, but they always melt away something. But she will also melt our hearts again on the dance floor, and she'll have some pretty stiff competition. TV's Urkel will be dancing. That's the answer to our dreams. Jalil White, the legendary Gladys Knight, sans pips. But just Gladys by herself. Let's see if she can get out there and cut a rug without the pips behind her doing the little choo-choo sound. I think you can do it, Gladys, but you're going to have to go up against Half-Pint. Then we have tennis icon Martina Navratilova, who kicks serious butt on any court, and I think she will kick some serious butt in that ballroom. So TV's Half-Pint, you got your work cut out for you, but we're going to be cheering you on, and I know Alison will. Aside from reality TV, and by the way, check out Celebrity Apprentice, because we've got Arsenio Hall, Debbie Gibson, TV's Incredible Hulk Lou Ferrigno, and the sadly departed Cheryl Tiegs. We've got a whole lineup of retro stars on Celebrity Apprentice, so check that out on NBC this spring. But aside from reality TV, everything's coming up retro this pilot season. I don't know if you know this, but Roseanne is doing a new pilot for NBC, and word has it that John Goodman has signed to co-star again. What a great team those two are. This project is called Downwardly Mobile. Personally, I can't wait to see it. I think that we need a laugh out loud, and hopefully filmed in front of a studio audience, trailer comedy. But if anyone can make the downwardly spiraling economy funny again, it will be Roseanne. I've also read that Martin Lawrence and George Lopez are also eyeing pilots. Can Margaret Cho be far behind? we need to reimagine American Girl from 1994. I think it's time, Margaret. But everything's coming up retro. And why? I always see things sort of going in a 20-year cycle. So now we're approaching the nostalgia era for the early 90s. And yet, we still can't get enough 70s and 80s, as has been clear with the trending hot story of the Joyce DeWitt-Suzanne Somers reunion earlier this month. Alison Arngrim, again, best-selling author. We've got TV's Half-Pint coming up on Dancing with the Stars. We just can't get enough of the 70s and 80s, and now 90s. And finally this week, another big name from the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. Back in the news, the long-awaited wrongful termination trial of Nicollette Sheridan against her Desperate Housewives boss, executive producer Mark Cherry, and against ABC. They are a co-defendant, and she is alleging wrongful termination and battery, allegedly on the part of Mark Cherry. The case is going to trial this month and in March after they get the jury, and we are expecting to see the entire lineup of the Desperate Housewives testifying on behalf, apparently, of Mark Cherry, and it'll be interesting to see who else testifies for Mark's behalf or Nicolette's behalf. She says that he slapped her on the face at a rehearsal. He says that it was just a harmless tap. All of the details are online. The lawsuit PDF is online. You can Google it. It's pretty fascinating. And it sort of reminds me of the whole Three's Company debacle with Suzanne Somers. Not that there was any physical contact there, abuse charges or anything of the like, but all of these years later, I'm still hearing Suzanne talk about, from her perspective, it was a mob fury when she made the demands for the raise and missed work, although she kind of leaves that part out of her story now. But she's saying that there was a mob fury and the cast and the crew sided with the executive producers and that the lines were sort of drawn. You're either for us or you're against us. Of course, for my book, Come and Knock on Our Door, John Ritter and Joyce DeWitt and the rest of the cast and crew shared with me exactly how they felt about all of that went down 30 plus years ago with Suzanne. And it's a lot more complicated, a lot more shades of gray than the sort of Cliff's Notes version that you hear nowadays from Suzanne. But it really makes me wonder if this is going to be the same scenario with the Nicollette Sheridan case. Will she claim that her co-stars, the crew members, that she's alleged that some of them witnessed this slap or this tap, whatever it was, and if they testify that they didn't see it or that they didn't see it the way she saw it or that she felt it, is Nicollette going to say, well, yeah, because you're still on the payroll, and yeah, because you don't want to tick off ABC, and yeah, because this executive producer can create mob fury against you? It'll be interesting to see what the parallels are there. Will TV ever learn from history? Even if Nicollette wins her case, one has to wonder, will she survive in Hollywood? Her character was killed off of Desperate Housewives, but has her career been killed off because she's raising a stink? We shall see. Nicollette might want to take a page from the book of Suzanne Somers and figure out a way to branch out so that as you approach 50, you will have new beginnings in your life in case ABC or TV in general doesn't want to work with you for a while. You can stage your comeback as a multi-dimensional performer. And that brings us to our special guest, our multi-dimensional Alison Arngrim, the Little House on the Prairie actress turned AIDS activist turned sexual abuse victims' rights advocate, an activist turned best-selling author. She's done it all. And as she approaches the second part of her life at age 50, I'm curious how she will continue to reimagine and reinvent her life as she has done so well over the last 20 or 30 years. Let's join Alison as we talk about her famous showbiz parents, her late mother and father, and how they influenced her to go down the path of Hollywood from the Prairie and beyond. dad was a famous agent, manager.
Manager.
To Liberace. You have great stories there.
Right? How many people go see Liberace when they're 8? I ask you.
Right. Incredible stories. So your dad, Thor, and your mom, Norma McMillan, was the voice of Gumby.
Well, she was Sweet Polly Purebred, Underdog's girlfriend, and Daisy of Davy and Goliath.
Oh, wow. That's a stretch. That's some versatility there. What did your parents teach you that helped you survive the industry? I mean, did your mom ever stand up and say, like, I'm Gumby, damn it?
She should have. She should have asserted herself in that way much more often, really. She really didn't assert herself till late in life. She wound up having like a third career when she was in her 60s doing commercials and films. And I think that's when she finally said, hey, I was Gumby, damn it. What am I doing?
Right.
But it took her a long time to really come into her. They taught me, one thing was there was sort of a realism about the industry. This was one of the useful things. My parents were just, everything was sort of scattershot. They did a lot of things wrong, but there were certain things they did right. And one of them was as enthralled by fame and fortune in TV as they were, and their obsession with getting on a series, and of course being hysterical when I got a series. They also, though, were very realistic. I was always told acting was a job. My father's favorite phrase was, you could be hit by a bus tomorrow, meaning you should do what in your life what you're doing now, and you can't get too wrought up about things because, well, you could die tomorrow.
That's right.
And, when you get hit by a bus tomorrow. So it's like, well, this could happen and that could happen. Yeah, and you could be hit by a bus tomorrow. So when were you going to do? You'd be dead anyway, so what? So that, life was hard. People died. They didn't sugarcoat things a lot. No. And because of that, it was like, well, yeah, you're on a series. They could fire you.
Yeah.
And you could be killed in a buggy crash on the prairie tomorrow. Your character could be gone. People got written out. People made big movies and made big TV series and were big stars, and then 2 minutes after the series ended, they never worked again.
Right.
And then other people you didn't think of came off the series and wound up becoming huge stars out of that. And I mean, you look at some of the stars who started at small parts on soap operas or were characters on series, and they're now big stars, and you go, wow, I can't believe they became the star.
Yeah.
And then you look at people like, okay, I mean, well, Eric Estrada's made quite the comeback and revitalized himself, but Chips, remember how everybody on Chips was like a god walking the earth when that show was on?
That's right.
They were so... Didn't the network buy them Rolls Royces for the season opener gift?
It was a huge thing. I mean, to be Larry Wilcox in 1979 was
Eric
a big
Estrada
thing.
And Larry Wilcox. And then what happened?
Right. And then they all got hit by a bus.
Then they kind of got hit by a motorcycle, I guess.
Right,
They got hit by the proverbial bus. And it was kind of like, whoa, what happened there?
Yeah.
And then, you said Eric Estrada, and people have sort of, picked up the pieces and found stuff to do, but whoa, what the heck?
They can be very
Miami
fleeting.
Vice.
Philip Michael Thomas? That was his name?
Right? That's the fact that you have to ask.
Right. Who was
brutal.
that guy? Yeah.
So my parents were very upfront about this, going, they ranted and raved, like, gotta get a series. Oh my God, you got a series. But then they were the first ones to go, but then again, it might work out, it might not work out. We don't know what the hell's going to happen. And that work was work because it was seen as a job, because they worked in the industry and it was seen as a job. That was an advantage because then I got my money. If it was seen as not a job, because sometimes parents who aren't in the industry and don't think of it as a job and just think we've somehow won the lottery, these are the ones who often steal their kids' money. Because they don't get it that the kid's putting in a 9-hour shift. This is simply work and they should be paid.
The different strokes. Gary Coleman
so they're stealing the money. Well, they saw it as a job, so I got my paycheck. I had a checking account by the time I was 13.
Wow.
I had the trust fund, but not only did I have the trust fund, but the money that didn't go to the trust fund, I paid my manager and my agent a commission to take it, and then they gave me my money, and I paid for my own braces, and I bought a bicycle, and I had a bank account, and I paid for stuff.
Very pragmatic, very practical, so that you understood, as well as they, that this was a job, and you were paying your way, and...
Made me go to the accountant every year at tax time.
Wow.
Now, I know actors who are nearly my age who still haven't figured out how the hell they file their taxes. They're still flailing about. And a lot of child actors have no clue. There's a child actress I met once. She was one of these people who had to sue the parents. She got a tax bill when she was like 19 or 20 for some huge, vast amount of money. She'd been on a very high-paying show. And she was like, how can I have a tax bill? Well, her parents had told her not to worry her pretty little head about money when they were pilfering it. And not only did they completely screw everything up, they forgot to pay the IRS and file the taxes. And so it's not on their head. She got the bill, and there she is. So she was rather upset, and lawyers got involved.
Yeah.
But I was 12 and 13 every year. They said, guess where we're going? Because, now you're filing a tax return. Get in the car. And I had to come with them, with my manager, with my dad and Jess, the managers, to the accountant and sit there. And they kept the receipts. By the time I was 14, I was in charge of keeping my own receipt. But even at 12, pull up a chair. I had to sit in the room with the accountant as he went over my deductions and what my tax return was going to be. And they made sure I understood.
You learned some serious life skills because of Little House and because your parents had been in the industry. So you were a step ahead of a lot of these kids, especially in the 70s and 80s.
And when I was 6, one of the great stories in my book is when I was about 6, 7 years old, and a teen magazine came to the house to interview my brother and the whole family, and then proceeded to write this completely ridiculous, goofy article that had nothing to do with anything we'd said or anything that had happened.
Oh my gosh.
And I could read, and I went, wait, what? I didn't, Dad. My father's like, they lie, okay? Let me see if I can explain this to you. Never believe anything you read in a fan magazine or a tabloid. They make it up.
Even Tiger Beat and Teen Beat, all of that.
Especially, yes, if it says love and cuz and groovy, it probably they're making it up. But yeah, my father explained that fan magazines, their job is to sell papers, and that these kind of magazines, yes, there are some newspapers that are reporting news, very few, but most, they're absolutely in the business of selling magazines. It is entertainment, and sometimes they'll just stretch something, but most of them will, in fact, simply make up an article. In fact, they'll do articles on people they didn't even interview, and this is quite common.
Insane, but true.
Yeah, and he told me to it, and he's like, yeah, no, this didn't happen. And he said, well, of course, and he explained which things, why they made them up, why they told the story the way they told it, and why it was really a much more interesting article the way they told it. And it was and that was the point. They weren't being mean. They just make stuff up. This is what they do. And so I shouldn't be particularly expecting what I say in an interview to make print.
Right. But thank God you survived it all and lived to tell about it in confessions in your own words.
And I tell her when I was a teenager in Little House and the rest of the cast started getting interviewed by TV Guide and they all freaked out when every word they said didn't appear as spoken. And I was like, well, what's with you guys? Didn't your father say you didn't?
That's not the way it works.
Real?
Well, my feeling is the truth is often stranger and, as you know, plenty times funnier than fiction.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the nuggets in your book, some of your confessions, I've got to touch on a couple of them. Michael Landon didn't wear underwear as Paul Ingalls.
In the 70s, normal fashion statement, tight jeans and an open shirt. However, on the show, in those farmer pants, they figured out that our main audience was women 40 plus. And so if you watch a show, Michael's shirt comes off like every episode, and he's wearing these skin-tight pants. And it really, people are getting the DVDs now and watching them in slow-mo when Paul runs down a hill.
Jiggle TV.
Quite impressive.
Could this have been why Mary went blind?
Right. She's like, my eyes. I don't believe I
This is why Carrie fell down the mine shaft. That's pretty crazy. And what's interesting is you wrote this incredible book, and Melissa Gilbert wrote this incredible book with all these revelations, but Melissa Sue, not so much. But I heard that she did dish a little bit about Ma and Paul not getting along.
It was weird. You go through a book and, in the blurb, because, they sometimes write the blurb for the book, the publicity. Once again, nothing is real. They write the publicity for the book before they've read the manuscript. So,
Right.
It says she will discuss her relationships with Melissa Gilbert and Alison Arngrim. I believe the words Melissa Gilbert are mentioned 8 times in the entire book, and I'm 4. Wow. So, no. We're barely mentioned as having been on the set.
Amazing.
She does. And I found it unusual that in a book that went so far to be polite and be safe and not reveal anything about anything, to just I am going to discuss what happened in the episodes. I'm going to talk very briefly about how I felt about it in my life, and then I'm going to cut away and not actually tell anybody anything important about myself, my life, or how I feel.
Right.
And if that's a decision you're making, then that's a decision you're making. But then to say, I'm not going to dish anybody because I'm not going to talk about anything, and then make the negative references that she did make to Karen Grassle, that played Mom. Because if anybody on the show was like her biggest defender and best friend, it was her. And it's like, wait, she likes you.
Wow.
So why would you say anything bad about her? She's crazy about you. She's like the last person you think should be dishing. But there you go. It's odd.
Very odd. And you've seen Karen Grassle a number of times.
Oh, heavens, yes.
And she's...
I'm encouraging her to do a book. I really think we need to hear from Ma.
We need to hear from... Ma needs to speak.
And also, and Karen has an interesting life in it. I mean, she was an actress established prior to Little House and has done a bunch of interesting things since and has a very interesting life. I'd really like to get Miss Beadle, Charlotte Stewart, to write a book.
Yeah.
She says no, but you should interview her at some point. You know that she was in a movie with Elvis Presley. She is Mary X, the mother from Eraserhead, and worked extensively with David Lynch, both in Eraserhead and on Twin Peaks.
Now that is different than Little House.
She's friends with David Lynch, worked with Elvis, and was good friends with Jim Morrison.
Okay, got to interview her.
So
Miss
I'm
Beadle.
telling you, Miss Beadle, and we're like, oh, please write about. And she ran a store called Liquid Butterfly in the late 60s, early 70s. It sold all the rock and roll clothes to bands.
Wow. We got to get the Beadle juice from
Right?
Stewart. That's
She knows everything about everything. She's got the most incredible life. I was like, you're so doing a book. She's like, oh, I am so not. I'm like, come on, Elvis, Jim Morrison, come on. She's like, not doing it.
We've got to hear. The teacher has got to tell, and
Right?
I will.
Teacher needs to tell. Miss lessons from Miss Beadle.
For sure. Well, there's such an interest and a global love for this show. I've got a couple questions.
Yeah.
With you and Melissa Gilbert, so close. You had so many great times on the set. Was there any flirty with you two and your TV brothers, Jonathan Gilbert and Matthew Laborteaux?
And his brother, Pat Laborteaux, was also on the show, playing Andy Garvey, also adorable.
Was there anything there?
They were really too young. They were so young. I mean, Jonathan was much younger than me. He was a little boy. I did want to take him home and adopt him and keep him like a pet. I mean, you know, he's just the cutest darn thing. But yeah, he was very, very young. And then Matt Laborteaux is also significantly younger than I am. I was the eldest, so they were little kids. We did think Matt was awfully cute, but he was adorable. And as he got older, he got really cute. But I mean, he was so young that his first week there, Melissa Gilbert and I picked him up and figured out that we could fit him into a small trash can. But Matt was really cute, and if you read about Matt and Pat, they were both diagnosed as having all of these horrible problems as children. They were supposed to be unadoptable and very ill, and their mother, Frankie, adopted them.
Wow.
And Matt was apparently diagnosed as being autistic, but I'm not really sure where he is on the spectrum, because there's a very wide spectrum of where you can be in that. And of course, he's still working today and doing voiceover. Well, they didn't tell Melissa and I when he first arrived. We didn't really know about this. And later, we were told he's terribly fragile. We, of course, not having been told this, immediately became friends with him and started roughhousing with him as if he was our baby brother. And we were actually walking down an alley at Paramount. We linked arms and linked elbows, and he was very tiny. And even for Melissa and I, who were short. And so we're walking along, and we just lifted him up in the air and dropped him into a trash can. And we're like, look, you fit! Because he's so small, you could fit him into a wastebasket. We thought this was hilarious. And as did he. We were like constantly wrestling and carrying on. Then we thought, oh no, you know, he's very ill. He's autism, and you can't touch him. He's very sensitive, and you mustn't play roughly with him, and he doesn't like people to touch him. We're like, we sat on him. Apparently not a problem now. And so I think that, yes, when he was with people who he was friends with, he was secure with, he certainly didn't have any problem. I mean, I don't think he likes strangers touching him, but, you know, neither do I.
Right.
Who likes being groped by strangers? This is not really fun.
Exactly.
So I don't know. It's fascinating because I now do hear from a lot of people who are on the autism spectrum or of Asperger's or what have you, and there's a lot more people talking about that nowadays. And Matt Laborteaux was one of the first famous people to talk about being on the autism spectrum, but I'm not sure where he would fall right now, because like I said, talk about high functioning.
Incredible that he and his brother have accomplished what they have. And I think you and Melissa Gilbert probably brought him out of his shell a little bit.
Yeah, well, if having those kind of like really, physical and fun, friendly relationships, if that was good. I mean, his mom, Frankie's an amazing woman, the mother, and Pat, because like I said, they told her all these terrible things, and Pat was terribly ill and not able to function or go to school with normal children too, and that turned out to also be completely not true. And she adopted them, and she got all this diagnosis and paperwork. I think she rightly took it with a grain of salt because they were so young. And she's like, okay, but yeah, they're 2. Do you actually know all this stuff about them, or are you guessing?
Right.
I mean, clearly they're having problems, but yes, they were given up at birth. Of course they have problems in foster care.
Yeah.
Because she raised those kids, and they wound up being geniuses and excelling enormously in school and in entertainment industry. I mean, and Pat Laborteaux, well, remember, he wound up starring in the show Jag.
That's right.
But yeah, they were the baby brothers. Now, Linwood Boomer, who played Melissa Sue Anderson's husband, yeah, and Trey Hot. Okay, we like him. Dean Butler's really cute, but Melissa's like, I don't really like the blonde, who's adorable. We all loved Steve Tracy, Percival.
Yes.
We would have really hot guest stars, some of the boys that we were assigned to date, or, very cute.
Yeah.
We had the really hot crew members. Me, Portagina, the t-shirt with the tattoos and the cigarette behind the ear and the toothpick in the teeth. I'm very blue collar, And so I, of course, thought the crew was hot. So, yes, there was a lot of flirting going on, but we were trying to go for older teenage boys and young men.
But not Michael Landon without underwear. That was...
We thought Michael Landon was stunning from a visual perspective, but he was too old, and he was, our boss,
Right. Well, that's good. That's healthy.
Oh, thank God, right? So, yeah, we had weirdly appropriate relationships. Like, Michael was Michael. It was like, oh, no. I mean, I can see from an older perspective now, maybe after I was 18, maybe when I was like 21 and came back for the guest shot on the show, I should have moved quickly, and maybe I could have... Because now, as a grown woman, I'm hearing all these stories that apparently he was like one of the world's great lovers.
Right.
So I'm going, I missed out. I missed my chance.
You missed your chance. Well, in retrospect, do you ever wonder maybe if you and Melissa Gilbert had, picked up Melissa Sue and put her in a wastebasket? Would that have helped? Would that have broken down some walls?
I think now you may be onto something. Perhaps if we had challenged this reticence and this aloofness, had said, yeah, come off it, and just dragged her out of her dressing room and said, no, we're going to go play tag in the pond,
Right.
We just pulled her out of it.
Yeah.
If we, the one time we got her at Magic Mountain, if we just said, okay, go, and like threw her on the ground or something, just started to say, we're going to mud wrestle now. If we just pulled her out and said, come on, let's go get dirty, because her mother would have said, and just, gotten her out of her shell and insisted that we all go play paintball tag or something in the woods. Maybe that would have worked. There you go. But we backed off. She threw up the wall, and we went, oh, okay, we'll respect that, and we'll go stay over here.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have said to hell with it. We're taking you out with us.
Right. We're going to go. We're going to have some mud wrestling. We're going to have some fun here.
Mm-hmm.
There is one other question that I've always wondered. In the iconic opening of the show, where the 2 Melissas and the one Carrie running down the hill,
yes,
and Carrie falls. Did
Flat.
She fall, or was she pushed?
It was a plot. She was tripped, essentially. The poor child. Baby Carrie, played by twins, the adorable Lindsay and Sydney Greenbush, alias Robin and Rachel Greenbush.
Yes.
So they're sitting on a blanket, the little toddler children, and with their rather distracted, ditzy mother. And I tell great stories about the twins' crazy. Baby Carrie's crazy mama is in the book. The crazy baby Carrie mama is completely bonkers. She's in the book. Bonkers mama is sitting there, and they said, quick, get one of the twins ready. And so she grabs the twin who's not asleep and throws her shoes back on, putting them on the wrong feet. So this poor child, who's barely learned to walk, then has her high-button boots, quite difficult to walk in for any child, on the opposite left-right feet. And is now told, quick, run down a hill. She's just woken up from a nap. Her shoes are on the wrong feet, and they went, go. And she dutifully took off running and, of course, fell straight forward onto her face.
And history was made.
And they loved it. And they were like, cut, oh, do it again. But they were all laughing so hard. They went, well, wait, no, why do it again? That was genius.
That was genius.
And said, yeah, of course they kept it. It's people still, Baby Carrie, fall down the hill. Ah. Poor girl.
Do it again. That's great. Great stories that you have. And you mentioned your TV husband that you were close friends with, Steve, who sadly we lost to AIDS in 1986.
Yes. I mean, way back in the day when, there were none of the drugs that are available now. It was still totally misunderstood. People still thought you were going to get it off the doorknob and from mosquitoes. I mean, it was real panic time.
Oh, my God.
It was so awful. And the discrimination and the carrying on and the panic and I mean, and for Steve, too, when he first got sick, he knew. I mean, he was very well read. He knew what was going on. He started to get sick, 84, 85. It took him 4 different doctors to get a diagnosis. Because it was the 80s, and he went to a doctor and he said, look, I think I may have this thing I read about the cancers, Kaposi's, No, it's a bruise. He's like, well, I don't think so, because it's got a little, but nowadays they run a test. They went, oh, it's fine. And he took him he had to go to 4 different doctors before they ran the correct test. And said, well, yes, you have AIDS, because remember, there was no test for the virus.
Wow.
There's nothing. You weren't diagnosed positive because you wouldn't have test. Mm-hmm. You had to come in presenting with one of the infections and have a battery of tests to confirm that you, in fact, had the syndrome.
The full-blown.
Full-blown, yes, full-blown.
Wow.
And so he had the pneumocystis, he had the Carinii. He didn't go into PCP, he had everything else. He had this cancer, the Kaposi's sarcoma, and he did later get several other infections that were difficult for his balance and his brain and eyesight and whatnot, but he didn't come down with a pneumonia till the very end. He did really well, which was amazing because there was like nothing. They were using experimental drugs at the time, and I remember he was on an experimental drug, and he said, I don't know if this will work on me, but maybe it'll save somebody else down the road, so I'm letting them experiment on me.
Wow.
Very brave.
Very brave. And you've also been pretty brave getting out in the forefront, speaking on behalf of AIDS education and related issues. What do you think Steve would say about all you've done in that realm of activism in the last couple decades or so?
Well, I like to think he'd be very pleased. I mean, I've had, friends of his, and people say, well, my God, he'd be so proud, he'd be so happy. So I think he'd be very pleased. I started volunteering, when he was alive, because I went to help him, as anyone would, their friend, or I would hope anyone would, and he didn't need as much help from me. I mean, he had volunteers. I mean, also remember, his family stood by him. His mother and his sister stood by him, and he had people helping to take care of him. So he wasn't as in desperate straits as so many others. And he had insurance, and he had signed up with AIDS Project Los Angeles and different places that would send people over. So he didn't need as much of that as much as he needed a friend. And I quickly saw, though, that there were thousands of people living in LA with AIDS whose mothers and sisters and friends and loved ones ran for the hills and abandoned them and wouldn't come and help them at all.
Oh, wow.
Who had not been on a TV series and did not have money or health insurance and could not afford all these doctors and the medicines he was getting, and were absolutely just up the creek. And these were the people who were receiving services from places like AIDS Project Los Angeles, AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Shanti, etc. So that's when I volunteered at AIDS Project Los Angeles, but that is the largest, AIDS organization west of the Rockies and providing most of the services. And I saw also then the level of ignorance. People were phoning me and asking me the dumbest questions. And when I saw how bad it was, so I signed up and I wound up on their hotline in their speakers bureau so I could get information out to people, because people were just in a blind spinning panic at that point. It was nuts. It's hard to imagine now. Everybody's got a red ribbon and everybody talks about AIDS and Liz Taylor's a hero. And we had fundraiser parties for APLA. And nowadays you throw a big AIDS fundraiser and you have, liquor companies and wine and beer companies. They donate the booze for the party, right? But they want their name in the program or on a banner or on the sign, and they fight over the advertising space. And I remember we would have events, and in later years, doing events for AIDS Project Los Angeles, we would have the wine company, the booze company say, oh, my name's not big enough in the program. You got to put my name bigger in a banner. I want a thing, and I want to be on the poster. And me and my dad and my friends who'd been this, we would start laughing. And then people go, what you laughing at? Because when we first did a benefit for AIDS Project Los Angeles, we we had a wine company say, we'll give you the wine for the party, but we'll drop it off at the back door and leave, and you mustn't tell anyone we gave you the wine.
Wow. That seems like something that would have been said 100 years ago.
Right! It sounds like it was a dark age. That was like 1986.
Wow.
People said, we'll give you the wine if you promise never to tell anyone because it'll destroy our business. If they hear we made a donation to an AIDS project, no one will drink our product if they find out we gave you the wine.
Oh, my gosh.
And the same people fighting over how many feet high their name, the letters could be on the banner. And it's insane. That's what it was like. People donate. I remember my dad was raising money. He was selling Christmas cards for AIDS Project Los Angeles. He was hawking the Christmas cards, and he got someone to write him a check, and the guy panicked, had buyer's remorse, and came to my father's house the next day, hysterical, saying, you got to give me back the check. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, I turned it in with the rest of the receipts to the AIDS Project. I gave it to them. I got your cards. What's the problem? And he said, no, because I don't know what I was thinking. It's going to go to my I can't have a check written to AIDS Project Los Angeles.
Whoa.
Yeah, came to his house, banged on the door. I got to get the check back.
Wow.
I'll pay you cash, but I can't get a check back. Right?
It's incredible.
Now, every major organization says, yes, we donate to, red ribbons and AIDS and the thing. And you even have people who are accused of cashing in, using an AIDS event to enhance their celebrity, just going to get their picture taken.
Right.
I can't imagine, in the 80s, just going to get your picture taken, people practically showed up with a bag over their head.
Right.
You couldn't get a celebrity to come to an AIDS event in the 80s.
No, like I said, it seems like this should be, Wal-nut Grove times that we're talking about, not 1986 Los Angeles. But that shows you how much progress has happened in the last 25 years or so.
When I look at it both medically, I remember people, the prognosis, they give you like 9 months. If you were diagnosed, they'd say you had like 9 months to live, year and a half with really good treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a lot of people die in 6 to 9 months, and I saw a lot of people die in a year and a half. And I remember if somebody lived 2 years or 3 years past their diagnosis, it was like, wow, dude, you're like, it was a huge deal. And now I have friends who were deathly ill in, 1999, 2000, 2001, and they're alive and working now. Of course, I'm also friends with a guy, Steve Peters, who I'm having dinner with tonight. Steve Peters was diagnosed with AIDS in 1983.
Really?
He was given a few months to live in 1983.
Wow.
And as he says, hey, fair enough, I did almost die several times. I was really sick.
Yeah.
He almost died several times. He kept getting better. They tried everything. At this point, his doctor says, I don't even know what I did to you, because otherwise I'd publish and say I had a cure, but I have no idea what it was. He's still alive. He's got some health problems now related to aging. we tease him and say, no, it's just getting old is all your problem.
Yeah.
But long-term survivor Steve Peters, we're going to dinner, going for Thai food tonight.
Now that's a reason to celebrate.
Right. And I see people living longer who would have been finished 10, 20 years ago. And then I also see people talking about AIDS in a way like when people talk about AIDS, they go, well, everybody knows. Oh, you get AIDS from sex and from blood and from needles.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't hear people spazzing out about, oh, my God, what if somebody with AIDS touched the doorknob?
Right.
They would be laughed at.
That's
Even
right.
the, quote, average person doesn't think that that's the real thing. They think that's silly.
Yes.
That was serious business back in the 80s. Going to get it off the furniture.
It wasn't that long ago.
Ooh.
And, and that's one of the positives of this internet age and the media age, for all the crap that is made up and all of the bad aspects of the internet. There is this flow of information now, and you've definitely been part of that, and educating people and using your celebrity to sort of break down some of those walls. You were one of the very first celebrities to speak out about AIDS.
I have to give Joan Rivers big props, because we know, I always say, the early folk were, Elizabeth Taylor, Madonna, Morgan Fairchild, and me. Joan Rivers did a benefit performance for AIDS Project Los Angeles in 1982 to help people with AIDS. And it was called Can We Talk? And my husband Bob, because he's at the hotline with it, he's got some of the T-shirts, these little red T-shirts say Can We Talk, from the original Joan Rivers fundraiser that was done before anybody. And the reason nobody knows about it is like, well, was it advertised? Huh, no. It wasn't like people went on like KTLA Channel 5 in the morning to discuss it because, they wouldn't have had them on.
Absolutely not.
Who would have put the poster up in their store?
No.
Who would have run the ad?
Well, there you go, Joan Rivers.
It was a secret party because at that time you couldn't get anybody to run. But they did have T-shirts. Of course, they had some left over, which is why Bob has them, because nobody would wear them. But but Joan Rivers, by God, did a show back in like 82, 83 in L.A. to raise money for people with AIDS, and I have the T-shirts.
Way to go, Joan. Now, those are collectibles.
Yes, we have. They're in a vault. They're lock and key over.
Well, you mentioned your husband, Bob.
Yes.
You've been happily married now for 13, 14 years?
18 now. 19.
18.
Oh, my God, it'll be 19 years this fall.
Oh, my God.
We just did 18 years in November.
Congratulations. And you have cats? Is it 2 cats?
Well, we're sadly down to 1 cat. We lost our Hannibal in December.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
He was 18 years old. We got him before we were married.
Oh, my gosh. How time flies.
And male cats, they say, don't live. When people have those cats that are 22 and 3 years old, they're like all female.
They are.
Poor Hannibal was a boy and was all of 18 and a half. He was almost 19.
Well, he had a long, I'm sure, very happy life with you guys.
Oh, yes. He was very spoiled to the end, and he died at home amongst his loved ones. So.
Well, with your long, happy marriage and your cats, have you ever stopped and thought, like, what life could have been as Mrs. Grizzly Adams?
Yes. Isn't that horrifying? Indeed. There was just some article online, people talking about bears, the gay category of hot guy bears, if you like them big and sporty with beards.
Right.
And someone was saying, well, I don't, this is on a totally like straight article. They were very confused about this. Someone said, no, like Grizzly Adams. Dan Haggerty. And indeed, yes, I was hit on by Dan Haggerty. He cornered me by the punch bowl at Brenda Vaccaro's Christmas party.
I love that story.
I amazingly said no. Yeah, I didn't know.
I hope he was wearing underwear.
I think so. I didn't get close enough. That was a terrifying thought. I kept my eyes. I was like, I don't want to know. I would have found out that night. But I could have found out. I could have found out what kind of underwear, if any. Yeah, truly amazing. Yeah, see, I only got hit on by people like Hervé Villachez, Dan Haggerty. Yeah.
I love that. Now, are you still doing your Confessions stage show? Are you still sharing these funny stories in person? Is there anything coming up?
I'm definitely gonna hit New York in June, and they've asked me to do the show at Lollapalooza in Minnesota, which should be wild. Now, it's funny because this show, people go, well, yes, of course we see it as a show in San Francisco, New York, Chicago, these kind of cities, but they're like, seriously, you're going to go do this out in Minnesota? I actually did this show in South Dakota. I did it in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I've done it in Wisconsin.
Wow.
And it was a smash. And when I went to South Dakota, I was, I don't know, man, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yeah, but it's the Washington Pavilion. It's a very sophisticated theater. They have also, but some of the things you say in that show, I mean, these people in South Dakota, I don't know, 5 minutes before the show, we were still going, should we do the bit about they tore the place apart. South Dakota loved it, and Wisconsin loved it, and Minnesota will love it too.
I love it. So age 50, that is a number to you. You are not slowing down. You have the energy of a...
Oh, God, I'm probably having to speed up. It's just, I look at how I really hit the ground running at 40. I think things had kind of bogged down a bit in my 30s, and then 40, somebody threw a switch. We hit the nitro pedal or something. Because it was 40. It was literally seconds after I turned 40 is I went to France for the first time.
Yes.
And then it was a few months later I debuted Confessions. And so suddenly at 40 I had a whole new show and a thing in France, a new career. And it's like, what the heck happened? So now I'm 50 and I'm like, now an encore? What am I going to do? And so, I have so much. I have the French show, the American show, the book, the thing, and I'm writing more. And, I'm studying magic. I'm meeting with my magic teacher tomorrow. Because
you have performed at the Hollywood, is it the Magic Castle?
The Magic Castle. I'm going to swing by the castle tomorrow. I'm going to check it out because I did some magic work as an assistant with a friend of mine who had an act. I was sawn in half and turned into a tiger and whatnot. I learned a lot about magic then. I've always found it fascinating. And magic, is technically French because, we talk about Houdini. Houdini took the name from Houdin, Robert Houdin of France. And Robert Houdin, he sort of invented the modern nightclub magic act as we know it. I mean, there'd obviously been magic for since time began, centuries, people doing illusions and tricks. But it was Houdin who came up with those, like, what was it, that movie, The Prestige, that kind of stuff. He came up with the big showy prop acts and illusions, the big elaborate stuff. There'd be no Doug Henning without Robert Houdin. So he sort of invented the magic act as we know it today. And he has a museum in France, which I'm going to go to while I'm there in March.
How fun.
So I'm actually becoming a magic student because I want to start incorporating magic. I actually put magic into my act. The last time I did my show at the castle, I did my comedy show actually at the Magic Castle, January of 2010. And we threw in a magic trick. I did Spikes of Doom, which is a marvelous trick where I'm thrown into a box and they crank the thing and big spikes come up through my body and through the lid of the box.
I love it. I love it.
I want to incorporate more magic into both my American and my French shows, so I'm taking magic lessons.
I love it. Well, you've been working magic for years.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I love that.
There you go. Put that on the poster. Well, you have, again, so many amazing stories in your book, Confessions of a Prairie Bitch. When will we see the TV movie? When will we see... When is that going to happen?
And will Melissa Gilbert then be in it? Since she, if it's a Lifetime movie, will Melissa Gilbert play it?
Right.
And will this cause a time-space inversion of the universe?
Oh, total collapse.
Right?
What is coming up for you that in terms of projects that you would like to do? You've done films, in some indie films recently. You've done all sorts of things on stage. Is there anything left that you'd be like, hey, I'd like to produce this, or I'd like to write that?
Yeah, I'm writing some things. I'm hearing about, working with other people, like the thing I'm doing, with Mary McDonough from the Waltons, but I've also been hearing from, Julie Dawn Cole, who was Veruca Salt in the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Right.
And she tours. She's marvelous, a British actress, wonderful when she was Veruca Salt, so she knows what it's like to have been a bitch. And we've been in conversation about trying to put together some kind of the Two Little Bitches tour thing, which could just riot if we get that together.
Oh, that would be great.
I'm writing a play, and I said this is very early in the process, but yeah, I have all these things I'm writing. I'm working on the second book, of course, and I'm going to be adding lots of stuff. I think by the time I show the American version of Confessions, by the time I do it this spring and this summer, I may have to title it Further Confessions or The All-New Confessions and everything.
I love it.
But I'm interested in writing a play about a pair of twins because I'm fascinated with all these twins in showbiz, like the two girls who played Baby Carrie and the two girls who played Baby Grace, and all these child actors who are twins.
Yeah.
And how nuts that would make anybody. To share a role with your sister for a long period of time. And so, we're like your Baby Carrie. Yes, but she's Baby Carrie as well. What does that mean?
Yeah.
I had a friend who created a whole idea where he had a fake sister for me. Like, what if Nellie Olson had been played by two people? What if I had a sister? And what would that do to your mind? How crazy would you be? And so I'm writing a play about that.
Interesting. Well, I am sure it will be colorful and fun. And when you get that going, let's talk again. Keep us posted, Alison.
Oh, God, yeah.
And thank you so much for your time here. I have to say, you've been a blast. And I've got to quote, Michael Musto from The Village Voice, who said about you in your book that you yank people's chains in a good way. And you do.
Oh, I love him. He's always had the best things to say about my show and my book. He's fabulous.
That is great. Well bestowed upon you. Congrats on your literary success, and we can't wait to see what's next.
Well, it went to number 30 on the New York Times bestseller list, and it went to number 15 on the French bestseller list.
Amazing.
An American author, number 15 on the French bestseller list.
I love it. And France will embrace you again in March, and
indeed,
you'll come back to the U.S. in April?
Oh, absolutely. I'll be back by April 3rd and hit the ground running once more.
Perfect. Well, we will be looking for you. Thank you again so much, Alison.
Thank you so much.
Turns out Nellie wasn't so nasty after all. Thank you again, Alison, for your great interview. And guys, if you're in Europe, check her out in March. In Switzerland, she will be performing Confessions d'une garce de la Prairie. My apologies to the French for that. On March 7th. check out her website. That official website is hgd.com/Alison. And she's also on Twitter at Arngrim, and you can visit her on Facebook at facebook.com/Alison.Arngrim. That's ALISON.ARNGRIM. She will also be going to France in May to perform her one-woman comedy show. So have fun overseas, Alison. But make sure you come back to the United States this summer, because you will always be our Prairie Bitch. Remember that episode of Little House on the Prairie where Laura and Albert are super excited to be dressing up as Indians for Nellie's Halloween party, but Ma Ingalls won't let them stay up all night without taking a nap first, so they take a nap and Albert falls asleep with this Native American book in his hands, and his imagination gets the better of him and he dreams that they are captured by Indians? Well, this next segment really has nothing to do with that, but it is a segue, and we are now transitioning into our Dreamweaver segment with our resident dream analyst, Yvonne Reba. And this week she shares with us some fascinating insights into a series of healing dreams that one of her clients had and shared with Yvonne, and Yvonne will share with us. For more info on Yvonne, check out her website, YvonneReba.com. That's YvonneRyba.com. And now let's join her as we continue this mesmerizing journey across the expansive prairie of our subconscious, on which we plot and construct the little houses of our dreams. Hello again, Yvonne.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
I am fantastic. And you?
I'm doing a lot better, thank you. After I had my tooth out, I had to go to the dentist, so I'm recovering.
Oh, the tooth that hurts.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Well, we just heard part 2 of our interview with Alison Arngrim from Little House on the Prairie, and
Yes.
She talks about how she really has become a voice for victims of sexual abuse, which she went through as a child. She's now an advocate in changing the law, and she's also used her celebrity to be an AIDS activist and really has turned this into a healing thing. And so I was wondering, do you have any dreams that sort of touch on these subjects or that have been healing in some way?
Yes, I do. In fact, I have quite a lot of that kind of a dream. But
Great.
I've picked out from one person who recently sent me 2 dreams, and I need to give you some background on this dreamer.
Yes.
Because it does fit in somewhat with what we've just said. This is a early 50s single woman who, when she was young, and she has a brother and a sister, when she was young, she was sexually abused. And has struggled with that. In fact, it made her put on weight almost immediately. In fact, she'd been putting on weight since she was 4 years old as a method of protection. And her mother married several times to various different kinds of men, none of whom were very good relationships, and of course everybody suffered for it. And the last one was someone that nobody got along with in the family, not even the mother, who has just died recently. And that's an important thing too.
Wow.
So when the mom died, she left all of her estate to the other sister and left out the older girl, the dreamer here, and the son.
That's terrible.
And they're all in their they're all in their 40s to early 50s. So this is a huge sort of like psychological blow, if you like, in many ways. And these 2 dreams have happened just recently after all of this turmoil. Now, I'm going to tell you this. This dreamer is very overweight now. She's over 300 pounds. And she's been going to the doctor with all sorts of things, and she has a big hernia that she needs to be tended to. And, of course, she has to get her weight up. So there's all sorts of self-image problems as well. But she is, once she sets her mind to a thing, she's very good at following through. When she became addicted to alcohol, she, after a year or 2, realized it, and she quit. And my husband and I actually know her quite well, and we went to celebration of her 25th anniversary of being, sobriety. So that's really a huge deal, yeah.
Great.
Okay, so this is the first dream that she sent me.
I dreamt that my mother sold all my old clothes to a resale shop, including the ones I loved and the ones I could wear. She bought a few pieces of new clothing for me, but not ones I liked, and only in a small amount. There were a lot of new clothes and jewelry. I remember looking at some clothing and being told, no, those are for your sister. And then I noticed a ring bought for my deceased father. When I asked where my jewelry was, I was told the reason my mother had bought my sister so much was that she would pay her back. So I went back into my closet to see what was left, and the closet was empty. When I went looking for the sexy red bodice shirt, it too was gone. This is a favorite shirt she had. It made her feel very good. I asked my mom what she'd done with my clothes, and she said all of my clothes had been sold to the resale shop. I asked about the red bodice, and she laughed and said, well, it was there too. So I tried to figure out where the resale shop was, and I talked to some male friend who knew about it. I was going to try to get the red bodice from being sold, even though it was already out on the racks and might have been sold. So that was the first dream that she sent me. So we looked at this. Well, obviously, here's somebody who's really working on their health, trying to get their weight down.
Right.
And clothes, of course. I mean, you know what this is like when you kind of balloon up. She's lost weight before and gained it back several times with different things. Had all sorts of procedures done different diets and so on. And then the hernia thing has made this all so much worse. So she has a lot of clothes that she can't wear, and some that she can, and some she doesn't like very much, and so on. So this was kind of the background for the dream, all right? So I analyzed it like this. Well, first of all, there are all these old clothes that her mama sold. Well, old clothes are you, like what your image is in the past, okay? These are old clothes from the past. So your image from the past has been removed, if you like. It's gone. In fact, although this dream was disturbing to her, I saw a lot of interesting and rather positive signs coming through. The subconscious was saying, we're getting rid of all the old clothes. And it was in a closet, and closets are storage places. In dreams, they are storage places for our memories, our attitudes, our ideas. And this was an empty closet, which to me was like, okay, spring cleaning and getting rid of all the old stuff.
Right. All that stuff in your mind and in your being.
Yes. And all the anger and bitterness that you feel about not having anything left to you in the will. And also about having all this struggle with your weight and health issues and so on and so on. So, but here we are really saying, I'm going to clean out the closet. We need to clean everything out and decide what to put back in. And she wanted this sexy red bodice, which obviously is a symbol for a sexy attitude. Okay, she felt good in this thing. It's something that when she bought it, it fit just perfectly. It made her look better, and she enjoyed wearing it, and she felt good in it. But it's the image of being sexy, being attractive to the opposite sex. Now, she's single. She's looking for a partner, okay? Obviously, her health has to be number one priority. Before you can look for a partner, you need to become fit, or fitter, let's put it that way. You need to be in a place where you can enjoy life and do things. It's hard to do things when you're struggling with all these health issues.
Right.
So the sexy red bodice, to me, it represented the feminine side, because, listen, a bodice emphasizes your breasts, okay, for a woman. And that's one of our very, feminine symbols, obviously. And it had disappeared, which it had in her life. This sexy side of life, it had disappeared, and she wants it back. And she's very annoyed with her mother for taking it. Now, mother. Okay, let's have a look at mom. What does mom represent? Well, her first thought was it was her mother, who had not been a very sympathetic figure in her life, hadn't supported her, obviously. She had a lot of struggle with her mom, who had doted on the other girl and left her everything. And when in the dream she says, I asked my mother why she brought my sister so much, she said, because she would pay me back. Well, the sister was the one who looked after her until she died. Well, she went into a nursing home at the very end, but the sister was there for her. Because she lived nearby, the dreamer here lives 2,000 miles away from there. They're in different states.
Yeah,
so
that's a factor.
Yeah, obviously. So the mother had said, because she would pay me back, to me that was, I'm giving her because she was there, right? Because she's my favorite. She's looked after me, and that's why. And so in her dream, she was telling herself, look, that's why this happened. And I need to get over it. I need to work through it. I need to go and look for my sexy red bodice, okay? I'm going to go and get my mojo back, if you like. I'm going to put myself right. I'm going to straighten up, clean out the closet, get Just get everything in there I want. I don't need all this old stuff.
Get your sexy back.
That's right, get your sexy back. So she had to look for where this thing was, but she had, and this is what I'm quoting, a male friend who knew about this resale shop and was going to try to get the red bodice from being sold, even though it probably was already out on the racks and might have been sold. Well, who is this male figure? Well, we asked about who is the mom. Well, yes, the mom is partly her real biological mom. But moms and fathers in dreams represent part of us as well. They are our masculine or feminine, wiser self. And you might say, well, her mother wasn't very wise. But no, in the dream, that part that is the wise old woman in dreams, the sage, if it's a man, right, the wise old woman for a woman, it doesn't mean she's old, it's just a saying we have. That is the guiding light, if you like, the sort of higher self guiding you, and it's saying, this is what you have to do. I'm getting rid of all your old stuff, all that old rubbish you've got stored away there. Out it goes, including all the memories, attitudes, and everything that you don't need. You don't need to be resentful and bitter. Focus on getting well. Let's get you into your red bodice again. The male friend is also a projection of herself, even though she has male friends, of course. It's her masculine side, and it's the assertive side of us. You know, the masculine side is our assertive, go out there and get it type of thing.
Right.
And the feminine side, of course, is the more receptive,
nurturing,
passionate side. Yeah. So my final thing to her was that she was seeing the need to clean up the past and to start again, which she's trying to do, and that she is going to redo her image. And I think her subconscious has set this goal for her, and it's very hopeful.
Great.
So
Great.
It's work to be done, yes, but now then.
That dream was really instructive and sort of encouraging her to take action to move forward in her life.
Absolutely. And it was a healing dream, you see. Although it was confusing to her because the feelings about her mom, when her mom pops up in a dream, she didn't recognize that part of that mom figure was also herself, trying to guide herself.
Interesting.
So we have to be careful. Yeah, we have to be careful in dreams. They can be like onions. There are many layers to them, you know. Like peel off one skin and there's another one underneath.
Now, does that mean that pretty much any time there is another person in your dream, that that person really represents part of yourselves? Or can it be both the person and yourself?
Well, usually it is part of yourself. I like to think that every part of the dream is some reflection of you. However, we remember when we first started doing dream interpretation on your website that we talked about seeing into the future and precognition. And so sometimes it is the person that you're dreaming about. It can be a warning dream or a guidance dream and so on, telling you to do this because it's important. But most of the time, things in the dreams are all reflections of you.
Interesting.
As well as the reference to something else. You see here the reference to the mom was that's the kind of thing her mom would do. She didn't give her what she believed she should have given her. So she showed up in the dream as the withholder, if you like, and the rather mean woman. At the same time, she offered very good advice, and that part was her higher self saying, let's clean out all this junk.
Interesting. So the mother within was...
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So, and then the next night, she had a different dream. And I'll read you that. It's not as long. Well, I always say that because when you come to analyze them, they tend to get longer and longer.
Right.
Okay, so...
Great.
So here it is. Right. Now, the next night she dreamt. She went into a home that she owned, although it didn't look like the house she's in now. And there was a dog in a crate in the kitchen, and it was barking, welcoming me home. I saw in a small aquarium a curled-up reptile that I was trying to raise. She was bringing it up. I went over to see if it was alive and what food it had or needed, as I wasn't sure what to feed it. When I gently touched it, it reacted violently, hissing. It got out of the aquarium hissing and ran into another room where it found a dog bed and lay down in there. I'm not sure if it was a snake or a dragon, just that it had awesome little teeth when it opened its jaws. I remember closing the kitchen door to trap it inside, and someone, I think the little girl was my little sister, came in there to see it, and I told her to be aware that she could get bitten and to shut the other door behind her so that it wouldn't get out.
Interesting.
Right, well, so let's go through this. So dogs, of course, you know, their images, I mean, we all have feelings about dogs.
Oh, yes.
Some people hate dogs. I mean, they've been bitten by a dog and they don't trust them. So if they dreamt about a dog in a dream, it might be a negative image.
So it's relative to the dreamer.
It's very relative to your experience.
Okay.
But if a dog is welcoming you and you have dogs and you love them, then the symbol there is loyalty, love, and conditional love, of course. A dog loves you no matter what. And so on. Doesn't matter if you're overweight, who you vote for, or what money you've got, the dog loves you. So this dream was very interesting, and coming on the heels of the last one, we tie them together and let's see what we get.
Yeah.
So she went into a house that she owned, but it didn't look like the house that she had, the home she has at the moment. Right, now, houses, they represent us again.
Right.
Every part of the house represents some aspect of our lives and our bodies. So, obviously, and I think I've mentioned once before, like attics, where we store things, that's our memories. They're in our head, the top of the house, and we store away old memories and old things and old ideas and attitudes and so on. Well, the kitchen is where we go to eat, make food, where we nourish and nurture ourselves.
Right.
Often the most populated place in the whole house. Most people are in the kitchen quite a lot.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and of course we store our food there, and I know my cats and dog are in the kitchen a lot whenever I go in. And this dreamer has dogs, by the way. She does have dogs and cats. So this dog that welcomes her in the house that doesn't look like the one she's got now, I think this is, again, her subconscious saying, yes, this house is you. It doesn't look like you now, but it will do.
Extreme Makeover House Edition.
We could get Bronson Pinchot onto this, yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Make it up, yeah.
So it was sort of saying, this is time for you to get a new image.
That's right. That's the first part, right? Now, the dog was in a crate in the kitchen, okay? But it was welcoming her. It was barking, welcoming her. And I've been to her place, and that's what they do. They all run out and bark at you and then run back in. But crated, of course, controlled, all right? Something that's in a crate that can't get out is controlled, like a prison or little bars or whatever you want to call it.
Contained.
This dog was under control. That's how I looked at that thing, okay? Now, then we see a curled-up reptile. It's kind of a bit ambiguous, this reptile. It's not sure whether it's a lizard, a snake, or a dragon. We just know it's got awesome teeth. So, and it hisses a lot, right? So it was in an aquarium, which would be a place where it was controlled, but it didn't stay in there. It climbed out when she tried to touch it, and it whipped off into the kitchen, which is where the dog was. Well, the dog seems to have disappeared, and this lizard thing gets into a dog's bed, right? So to me, that was like this lizard was taken over. This lizard was saying, forget the dog. I'm the thing you should be aware of. I'm the thing you've got to deal with, okay?
I see. And what do you think the reptile represented in her life?
Well, I had several ideas. And, the dreamer has to know that it feels right. See, I didn't dream it, so I can give advice, and also I can use my intuition to help put this together. But the dreamer has to really feel that I am correct, or they have to come up with their own ideas. Now, here are some clues when I looked at the lizard. I'm going to read again from the dream. She saw this curled-up reptile that I was trying to raise. In other words, she was trying to bring it up to maturity, or get it there, where it could look after itself, which I thought was pretty significant. And then she went to see if it was alive, okay, because she wanted to see what food it had or needed, as I wasn't sure what to feed it. So we're in the kitchen, we're looking at the thing about what to feed it. I'm thinking we're back again to looking at how am I going to lose weight?
Right.
What's this self-image thing?
Right.
The lizard, of course, represents some angry, possibly. Hissing's not a good thing. But running away as well. I mean, just because she didn't hurt it, but she poked it. And it was running into the kitchen and getting into a dog bed there, saying like, I'm the thing that's replacing the dog. The dog's pretty inoffensive, it's welcoming you, but I'm the thing you've got to deal with here.
Interesting.
So what do you think this is? Well, she was frightened of it and told her little sister, or young girl, who came in out of nowhere, as they do in dreams, keep that door closed, okay? Keep that door closed or it will get out and it'll bite. In one of my dream books, and I've mentioned this book to you before, as being one of the best books that I ever had. And I have got a whole pile of dream books here looking at me on my bookcase.
Mm-hmm.
Some cost a lot of money and are very big and so on, and some are quite complicated. But this little book, Betty Bethard's The Dream Book, Symbols for Self-Understanding, which hopefully is still being published somewhere by the Inner Light Foundation.
Right.
Because Betty passed away some years ago. I've had this book forever. I mean, it's just terrific. I looked up dragon. Okay, that was what I wanted to find out. I thought, well, what the heck is this dragon? And she had got in there, Kundalini energy was one of the explanations. Power, awakening power. And I thought, snake, lizard, dragon, okay, kind of, it sounds a wee bit like some of the movies that we've had over the last few years, you know, The Hobbit,
right.
the Lord of the Rings, all that kind of thing. I mean, they grow from like being a kind of a sluggy-looking snake thing into a huge dragon and so on.
Mm-hmm.
There are many legends and stories like that. So to me, she's trying to raise this thing into a big, powerful creature. Representing power is what I got.
I see.
Kundalini energy, really interesting. If you didn't know about Kundalini energy, it's the energy that rises up through the body, energizing it and empowering it, and it happens for the first time with everyone when they enter puberty. It raises from the base of the spine all the way up through the top of the head.
So is it like a sexual
animal
energy?
Yes. It has a lot of sexual energy to it, but one of the wonderful things about it is that as we grow older, we can, by using different techniques, and meditation would be one of them, and certain exercises that, you know, this is an Eastern thing that we're talking about, that this energy that rises up can be transmuted into other creative things, not just the sex thing itself, the act itself, but also all that wonderful creative feeling that we'll get when we're in love and everything is going great, that we suddenly become, you know, masters of the universe, you know. That is what it represents when it's controlled and it's not allowed to go rampant. And she is controlling this thing by locking it in the kitchen, which I thought was interesting. So nobody can get in there because it is, guarding the place? I'm not sure. I know that her subconscious is saying to her again, be guided here. We're going to get you into a place where you are not going to overeat. You're not going to eat the wrong stuff. And remember what she said, what she should feed it. What should I feed it? Not just physically, what should I feed it, but also energetically, what shall I feed myself? Let me get on the right pathway here. Let me get my power going. She has a lot of power that's not available to her because she can't cope at the moment when she's so focused on her problems with her health, the hernia, the overweight, and so on.
So again, it seems between both of these dreams, there's a connection between sort of a sexual energy and just a primal energy and food, the kitchen.
Right.
That element that perhaps she's insulated herself through.
Well, she's sort of saying, I'm going to control the kitchen. Access to the kitchen representing food intake. I'm going to control it. Now, the dragon could go in there and be guarding it for her. That's her power. It can also be warning her, right, when it was hissing. It didn't bite her. It just showed its teeth. It didn't say, I'm going to bite you or bite you. It just looked as if it might. So she's careful with it at the moment. She's not in a place to really tap into that power. And the little girl, by the way, that's her inner child, because she said, my sister. And I said, no, at this point, I think because you're thinking about your sister, who is a little younger than she is, but at this point is in her 40s, so this sounds like your inner child. And you're saying, now be careful. Don't be opening that door. That thing will get out and it'll bite you. So, to me, what I got was that she was protecting her inner child, which we all do, of course. We don't even know we have an inner child, some of us, but we do.
Right.
Things that have happened to us when we were children, we still have them stored away. The hurt, you know, when she was sexually abused. That didn't surface, and of course becoming an alcoholic was a way of escaping from the memories.
Right.
She became an alcoholic in her late teens and early 20s.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah. So, you know, she went to college and first time that she could, I mean, she was free of all the terrible memories that she had that were coming back to her. I mean, she was free of the men that were doing this, but she was, at the same time, she was able to drink as much as she liked. And then she realized she was killing herself. So she started going to AA, and 25 years later, she is a very interesting, intelligent, professional woman.
And yet she sort of substituted, it sounds like, food for the alcohol. And so
She knows she has an addictive nature, yes.
It sounds like she's really taking an inventory now, and these dreams are sending her signals to control her appetites, to channel her energies, and to, rediscover who she is at this point in her life.
I think so. She's been working on the weight thing for years, but of course, you know how that goes. With a lot of people, that you get it off and it comes back on again very quickly.
Right.
But because she's had all these memories, and now her mom has gone and is not there anymore, and has given her a lot of grief over the years, by the way. Now that her mom is gone, she is in a place where she has to deal with the fact that, okay, she's gone. It's over with. I mean,
Right.
I've got these memories, but what do I want to do here? Hang on to them?
Right.
And her mother actually appears and says, clean out the closet, okay?
Clean
Get rid
it
of
out.
it all.
Mhm.
The whole thing.
Yep.
And start again, yeah.
And move forward. So it is healing, certainly in the context of the dreamer. One quick question I have for you. How, in general, does your understanding of one dream impact your understanding of another dream, if they sort of are a series of dreams that a dreamer's having?
Well, it helps to know the person, by the way, and I do know this person. It's happened to me. I have had a series of dreams about things. Some 30 years ago, just before I came to this country, I had many dreams about this huge move that we were going to make from England to the U.S. And I had a series of dreams, which I've got in my books, about that. I remember one of the dreams was kind of humorous. My husband was in a big store buying ties, and I thought, why is he buying ties? He doesn't need them. And, of course, part of that when I woke up was the tie between England and us, our families, or the ties we had with everybody.
Right.
We didn't need them, right? We were going to have to let them go. We still would have ties. I mean, obviously, we'd be connecting with them, and they'd come over and visit, and we'd go back there. But as for the main ties of, like leaving your country to start again somewhere else, that was like the big lesson. Let them go. And I recognized that theme throughout quite a lot of my dreams that year.
Okay.
So having gone through that, it's helped me with other people's dreams, that I sort of know that some dreams do not seem to be a series, but when you look at them, the message keeps coming through. And your subconscious is pretty good about coming up with new ideas to try and get the message across.
Very interesting. So our subconscious mind can really be like a soap opera playing out over a number of episodes.
Oh, yes, it is. It is. It's a huge soap opera, yeah.
Our inner Susan Lucci. I love the concept of dreams being healing things, and would love to further explore this with you in a future episode.
Absolutely. We will do that. Yes.
Perfect. And let's talk again soon also about, we had talked before about the Mayan calendar and what may be ahead for us this December, because, we have all these great dreams for the future, but are we going to have a future? That's what I want to know too, Yvonne. So many things to talk about. So we appreciate you touching on those in the weeks and months to come.
Well, yes, of course. We will do that. And I'm going to give you a hint.
Yes.
All right. That you'll be around to see New Year.
Oh, good. Thank God. Yeah, I mean, because it's like, we're looking forward to things. For many people, astrologically, I have read, for me, 2012 is a big year, a big sort of threshold to sort of a rebirth. And I'm like,
I believe that.
Yeah, why are we going to be reborn if we're all going to die in December?
That's right. No, I do think the energy changed a lot, and especially for people who've done some work on themselves.
Yeah.
People who didn't feel stymied and stuck and so on. But for a lot of us, it is a clearing out.
Yes.
It happened for me too, in a good way. A lot of stuff that I don't need, I'm getting rid of it out of my life, and I'm really focusing on all the fun stuff that I love to do, which is like doing dream interpretation is one of them, and so on. And of course, I do other things too. But evolving in a spiritual way is what we're all here for.
Absolutely.
And we use the lives we have to help us with that in whatever it is we're doing. And sometimes it's the weirdest kind of thing, because it can be, you get to be an alcoholic and then you learn to give it up. And that is a great spiritual strength, that you've brought out that ability to overcome an enormous handicap. I mean, that is like Marley's ghost,
Sure.
With all those chains around his feet.
Sure. So
it's
And life adversities can really be opportunities, and many times our dreams are sort of nudging us along to get the message and turn a negative into a positive.
Absolutely. You become a role model for somebody else or a teacher for other people. You bring out their strengths, and that's a wonderful thing. I mean, that is really perhaps one of the most wonderful things we can do for other people.
I love
Show
it.
them how to do it, yeah.
Transformation. It's all about transformation. So
That's right.
thank you for helping us transform a little bit each week. We look forward to continuing this dialogue soon, Yvonne.
Thank you very much, Chris. I always enjoy it.
Reimagine That with Chris Mann was brought to you by Retroality TV. Copyright 2012 by Chris Mann. You can find us at retroality.tv and at reimaginethat.libsyn.com. Tweet us at retroalitytv or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/retroalitytv. And don't forget to check out our TV channel at youtube.com/retroalitytv. In closing, let's keep in mind that even the most prissy of prairie bitches should look upon a face full of mud as a growing experience. And if you can't learn to be humble, chances are you'll find yourself face down in a dirty creek bed under a half-pint over and over again.